But they weren't originally called Arsenal. They have an incredible history, they really do, and they were actually named firstly after what is now this pub. So I'm gonna have a drink in the pub that Arsenal first got their original name from, which wasn't even Arsenal, it wasn't even anything like Arsenal, it was Dial Arch. And they were actually named after a clock or a dial that was actually on top of one of the armament buildings of the workers who actually formed the club. We're going to be getting into it all. The dial should be there somewhere. Yeah, there it is, up in the centre of this pub. So this is where and why Arsenal were first called Dial Arch. Right then, so the barman was just telling me that, and I knew this and I was going to tell you anyway, but great to have him confirm it. And it's great to be in here and just to be able to see how preserved it's become. Even though it's now a pub, this used to be a part of the armory building and like the ammunitions industry that was here, hence the name Arsenal to this day. But the dial that was on the way in, that is what the original club were called, and it would have been workers from this very building that formed the original team that would later become Arsenal. It was in 1886 that Scotsman David Danskin and 15 fellow munitions workers in Woolwich, which is obviously where we are now, formed Dial Square Football Club, named after the workshop that I'm showing you right now. It used to hold ammo, explosives, and was like a factory. They weren't called Dial Square for long, and they actually renamed to the Royal Arsenal just a month later. The club did win a few trophies in the late 1800s, winning the Kent Senior Cup, the London Charity Cup, and the London Senior Cup. These were like county association trophies that Arsenal won in sort of southeast London. And in 1891, Royal Arsenal became the first football club in London to turn professional. I've migrated outside into one of these lovely little pods here, right? There's the pint just there. But it's mad to think that like that sundial up there, I don't know how sundials work at all, but there it is. And the Arsenal that we know today, from Thierry Henry, Tony Adams, Arsene Wenger, Premier League titles, undefeated champions in the Premier League, Champions League finalists 2006, Europa League finalists recently, of course, when they obviously lost to Chelsea and Baku, all the FA Cups that they've won, etc. All started here pretty much, and were named after that sundial. So there's a plaque just there next to the pub where I've just had my pint about Arsenal, the football team, which I'm going to take you to in a second. But look, the Napoleonic Wars of the early 1800s cemented Woolwich Arsenal's importance to England's military status. In 1805, King George III granted it the title Royal Arsenal, and over the next 100 years its reputation grew as a centre of engineering and armaments excellence. So it's a really, really important part of Britain. And look at this, we have 3 cannons all pointing towards the Dial Arch just there. But here we go, look, here is one of the most exciting parts of this video. Royal Arsenal Woolwich. The Dial Arch pub behind you is the site of the birthplace of Arsenal Football Club. In the late 19th century, a field gun workshop called Dial Square was located on the site within the Royal Arsenal. The sundial that gave the building its name is still visible to this date. There it is. In 1886, a group of workmates from Dial Square formed a football team to break the monotony of day-to-day life in the munitions factory. I bet the conditions were terrible. They played their first game on the 11th of December 1886 on the Isle of Dogs, beating Eastern Wanderers 6-0. After this game, they changed their name to Royal Arsenal and grew to become one of the best clubs in the south of England. There you go, as I was saying, they were the first southern team to turn professional in 1891. Of course, the Football League, right, was hugely northern at the start. I think the first Football League had 12 teams, and they were all from sort of the north and the Midlands. I think Accrington had a team in it, the very first Football League, Blackburn, maybe Burnley, but the Football League was very northern focused at first. But obviously Arsenal were one of the first, or the first, southern professional team. In 1913, the club moved north of the Thames to Highbury and changed their name to Arsenal. So they went from Dial Square to Royal Arsenal to Arsenal. They were elected to the English top division in 1919, where they've remained ever since. Arsenal has since become one of the most successful teams in England, renowned throughout the world, and moved to its current Emirates Stadium in 2006. Yet the club never forgets its origins here at Dial Square and the ambition to bring people together through a common love of football. It says there, you know, the club won't forget its origins. But how many Arsenal fans aren't necessarily aware that this is where it all began for this fantastic football club?